Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Wool Stream. This is episode 1. Thank you to everybody who is joining us. I'm just going to make sure this is our first one, so I'm going to make sure that we are up and running and that everybody has the correct links and that we're working and that everything's just hunky-dory. I want to welcome you to this place. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your pledge and for supporting at this level. I really appreciate it. It's really exciting for me to be able to start something new like this. And thank you for being here. I see we're just kind of getting up and running. And if you have access to the live chat, please pop in and say hello and let me know who's here. I know Kelly was around. If you're on a mobile device and you're having trouble accessing the live streams, when you're on Patreon here, when you're on your thing, if you just press that play button, what will come up is this, and you'll have your chat down below. So just follow that link, and then if you want to participate, you can just pop in. And the other way that it looks is when you're like this and you're actually on YouTube. If you click that middle button there where it says live chat, you can click that and it'll bring up the live chat and it'll look like that again. So for those who don't know how that all works, that's kind of a quick rundown. I have thought about showing that on the regular podcast, and I need to do that. So I was also really torn about numbering these. So for the Wool Stream, I was torn about doing episode 1, episode 2, because I have a hard enough time keeping track when it's the regular video cast and podcast. But I sort of thought there's no other way for somebody pledging later to then go back and sort of know which order to watch these in, because when I put them into the index, they'll be numbered. So I'm going to leave them numbered, but I'm going to have titles like we do for the video cast. And hopefully you guys will find that helpful to be able to watch in a relatively organized way. So welcome. I can see the live stream is having some issues. So I just want to make sure that you guys can see me and that everything's running. Yeah, it looks like everything's good. So hi, Kelly. Good to see you. If anybody else is around, please don't hesitate to jump into the chat. For our format today, so there was a really bad accident on the way home from school today. So we're starting a few minutes late. 9 o'clock might be cutting it a bit too tight for me to get from the school to home to be able to do these. But I know that like for down under, in Australia and stuff, and different parts of the world, having these streams at different times is helpful. So we're just going to have to play with the time and see. So for our first Wool Stream and for the first sort of building a capsule wardrobe sort of chat, we're going to talk a little bit about the reason. We're going to sort of do an introductory episode today. We're going to talk about my reasons for wanting to build a capsule wardrobe. We're going to talk about what to expect from the Wool Stream and what this will look like over time. And then I'm going to talk about purging my closet, which is what I did over this past weekend. I'm also going to talk about some planning because I identified some holes as I was purging my closet. And then we'll say goodbye. Before we go any further and before we jump into our intro, I wanted to mention I had a couple of people ask me if where we were going to have like a discussion thread for the Wool Stream specifically. So I'm not sure if you guys want to do that on the Slack channel or if you want to do that on Ravelry. So if you guys could let me know by commenting below on the Patreon post for this stream, that would be really helpful. And I will leave the link to pop back directly to this post on Patreon down below for you guys. So you can just click there and leave those comments in the in the comments below on the Patreon post, not on YouTube. That would be really, really helpful. That's awesome, Kelly. So she's trying to keep her toddler busy so that she can watch. It's only half an hour, so really you can keep your toddler organized for a half an hour and distracted, hopefully. It's funny because there's quite a few of us in this community that are trying to create a slow made, handmade wardrobe. And so I thought, like, this has been something that's ruminating in the back of my mind for so long. And I just, it's something that I've wanted to talk about for a while. I've done various blog posts on it, and then I sort of never follow up. And I just thought, you know what, if we've got an actual dedicated space for it and other people who are wanting to do this as well, it would be really great to share that together and to do that together. So my reasons for wanting to build a capsule wardrobe is to minimize my environmental footprint. We know that the textiles industry has a big impact on the environment. There's a lot of waste. There's a lot of stuff that ends up in landfills. There's a lot of clothing that gets donated or burned that ends up just creating more waste. And I would sort of like to model for Nora specifically, because I think women are very much at... We're marketed to, we're influenced very heavily by advertising and marketing and social media and whatnot to constantly be getting the next big thing and to be constantly influenced by that, sort of that keeping up with the Joneses kind of mentality. And I just want to set a good example for Nora that you don't always have to be acquiring stuff. So that's sort of my number one is my environmental footprint. Number two is building a wearable wardrobe that limits my decision making. So there's a lot of especially in the tech industry, and my husband and I talk about this all the time, the more stuff that you have in your closet, for example, and you can apply this to any aspect of your life, but the more stuff that you have to look at every morning when you go to get dressed, the harder it is to make a decision, and it just slows you down. And it's not that every single facet of your life has to be uber efficient, but you only have a certain amount of capacity day in, day out to make decisions. And so the more time you're spending making decisions on relatively inconsequential stuff, like whether or not you should wear those jeans versus those jeans, or that shirt versus that shirt, as the day goes on, you start to experience what's called decision fatigue. And it's a very real thing, and it's quite interesting, and it becomes harder and harder as the day goes on to make decisions. So the more you can make your routine stuff, the stuff that you do every day, routine, and not have to make a decision about whether or not you're going to brush your teeth, whether or not you're going to brush your hair, all that kind of stuff. And it's just part of your routine, the less you will experience decision fatigue. And then when you get to the big decisions, or things that happen throughout your day, you don't feel like you're digging deep, and now you're having to dig even deeper, and you don't really have anywhere left to dig because you're at the bottom of the well already. So there's a lot of information out there about decision fatigue. You can Google it. It's really interesting. But that's one of the second reason. Now, the third reason is to incorporate more handmade clothing into my everyday wardrobe. So I have a lot of handmade clothing, and when I was going through my stuff on the weekend, which I'll talk about later, I was actually surprised at how much of it I don't wear. It either is because it doesn't fit, it doesn't coordinate, it's not the right colors, and I don't wear those colors. I was really surprised at how much of my clothing I don't wear. And so I've been really interested in this idea of like a wearable muslin. So if you see on my dress form just behind me, this sort of chevron type diamond pattern shirt that's under my cardigan back there. And actually it's out of reach, so I can't grab it for you guys to show you, but I will next episode. I would really like to make this shirt out of hand woven fabric, but I need a wearable muslin in the meantime to sort of figure out fit and where I maybe want to change things around. And so the idea, what I would really like to do is sort of, as I'm moving towards a handmade wardrobe, that things like wearable muslins like this behind me, to kind of test out the pattern, if you will, I can then turn that into a pattern that I go to again and again, rather than going and buying a t-shirt from like Joe Fresh, which is a fast fashion brand, or just picking up that $5 t-shirt because it's easy. And when my t-shirts that I do have sort of start to become worn, then I can start to replace them with stuff because I know that it's a tried and true pattern. It's something that I've been wearing in the interim, and then over time, my pieces can be replaced by handmade items. And then my last reason for wanting to move towards a capsule wardrobe and a smaller wardrobe and a handmade wardrobe is mostly just to reduce my consumerism. It's just too easy to walk in, and I go to a Canadian grocer that's called Superstore, and you walk in and like there's the whole front of the store is clothing, and it's just so easy to just grab it and not to think about it. And you get home and you're like, I didn't really need another white t-shirt, but it was only $5, you know. So just to try to minimize some of that and be a little bit more intentional about how I bring stuff like that into the home. Because the thing is that I'm modeling for the kids. Like they see that, right? And just thinking a little bit differently, a little bit more intentionally. So what to expect from the wool stream. So for the next little while, we're going to sort of be focused on building a handmade wardrobe, building a capsule wardrobe. My goal is over time to have between 30 and 40 pieces for a seasonal, so for all year round, for a 4-season wardrobe. Because having 10 pieces for a 12-month wardrobe probably isn't realistic, but I sort of thought between probably 30 and 40 pieces would over time be reasonable. And then as we sort of flesh out this subject and we sort of get to that point where we're sort of feel like we've done that, if you will, and the capsule wardrobe doesn't feel like it's the right thing anymore, we'll sort of move into other topics. That's why I called it the wool stream. I wanted to keep it a little bit more general rather than the capsule wardrobe stream. Well, that might not be relevant for us in a year or two. So the wool stream means that we can go in whatever direction we want to as a group. So for the next little while, what you can expect is sort of 5 general topics that I'll be talking about. So the first one will be planning. The second one will be materials and costs. So what I'm acquiring, what I'm using, how much it's costing me. I wanted to be transparent about that. I thought it would be really helpful to sort of put some dollar values to how much it costs to do some of this stuff. Techniques and methods, sampling and swatching, and then the results, the outfits, and how wearable they become. And I am not above just donating stuff. If I make stuff and it's been a few months and I'm not wearing it, out it goes. I might even start an Etsy shop and start listing stuff in there and selling stuff that way. So with that, let's have the intro for the show and then we'll get back to it. So this past weekend, I actually cleared out my whole closet. So I pulled everything out. I pulled everything out of my dresser. I pulled everything down off my shelves and I went through everything and I started making a whole bunch of outfits. And we have a walk-in closet currently and it's about the size of a small bathroom. So it's a pretty good size. And that would be like a 4-piece bathroom, so like a tub shower combo and then a toilet and a counter. Like that would be the size of our walk-in closet. It's a pretty good size. And currently my clothing takes up 3/4 of the space. So my goal is Mike and I want to do some renos in the house eventually. Our house is a little bit of a fixer-upper. We need to do flooring and we need to do baseboards. We will eventually have to redo the roof. And that was part of the reason why we bought the house, was because over time we could make it our own and we have no intentions of ever moving. And so when you walk into our closet, what we'd really like to do eventually is to have a built-in closet. And my goal is to eventually have a relatively small footprint. So my long-term sort of visioning is to have a closet space, like in the closet for my space, to be about the equivalent of 1/3 of the closet. And that would be everything that I own hanging up there. And then Mike and I would like to we've got 2 dressers right now, and we would like to get down to 1 dresser between the 2 of us. And we also have a captain's bed. So we have, it's a platform bed, and we have drawers under our bed that are absolutely massive. And we want to turn those have clothing in them right now as well. And we would like to turn those into our linens because our linen closet is actually quite small. So we've kind of got these ideas and these plans. And as I was purging my closet, it really made me realize how much of my clothing is usable and how much of my clothing is not usable. And it either doesn't fit, it's too big, it's not what I want to wear. And it also made me realize how much money is caught up in all of it. Like there's a lot of, even if it's just $5 here, $40 there, it really starts to add up. So I'll show you some of the stuff that I found. And I've sort of categorized my clothing down into 3, and excuse the crappy photos. They're just off of my phone and my mirror is not clean. But these are some of the outfits that I came up with. So this one I kind of just made up on the spot. I've never worn it in real life, but I thought it's perfect. Same with this one. Same shirt underneath, gray versus a striped one. Same cardigan, but now with a handmade shawl. This is a hand knit sweater that I've made that I've never worn. It's again, trying it on, putting it with some different stuff, I realized how wearable it is. Same with this. I actually might wear this with black leggings to my dad's memorial. So that was sort of a whole new thing. Same with this. Just finding some different clothing and some different ways of putting it together. But a lot of this stuff is actually, when you start to see as you see the photos unfold, they're all the same. But I noticed that, funny, Kelly, that you would ask about the color palette, because I noticed that my clothes are all the same color. So I've kind of chosen a set of colors to stick to. So ochre yellow, army green, gray, and white. And then, of course, I've got some black stuff in there, but black goes with everything. And so if I stick with those 5 colors, everything coordinates. Everything works. And the crazy thing is that my clothing already falls into those colors. So I was actually really surprised at the pieces that I have that are quite wearable. The gaps that I found was that stuff was too baggy. So I got rid of 3 big garbage bags full of clothing. A lot of it was too big. It's stuff I'm never going to wear. And some of the dresses, like the first one that you saw with the lace overlay, it's about 4 sizes too big. And as soon as I put it on, it's just too stretched out. But I was surprised how many pieces I had that actually will work that are already handmade, and then how much I could layer. So like this is an apron. This is too big on me. It's absolutely massive. So it went into the donation pile, and which is actually too bad because I really like the print, but there's no way that I can modify it. This skirt hasn't fit me the last few years. I put it on, it fits perfectly, and it's cute and it's bright. This is really super dressy. So I kept this dress and one other one, the really long maxi dress that's blue and white, as dressy. And then this is sort of a more casual floral dress for the summer, and I kept that one as well. But I got rid of all of my other dresses. So I feel like I really was able to pare down, and that feels really good. So that's sort of what my more formal closet looks like. And then I went through all of my flannel shirts, got rid of a whole bunch of them that are they're too big. I'm not going to wear them. And then the other category was my gym clothes. I put them into one drawer in the dresser, and I'm not going to acquire any more of those. I'm also not going to make any of those. I'm just going to wear that stuff until it doesn't fit, until it's worn out. And then I also had like my daily everyday. So some of those clothes that I just showed you are daily everyday. I've already worn 1 or 2 of the outfits, which feels really good. And then I have a whole bunch of t-shirts. So I'm just not going to replace my t-shirts. I'll wear them, and as they wear out, get holes in them, all that kind of stuff, I'll just remove them and replace them with stuff like this shirt in behind me. Because this shirt in behind me, if I have 2 or 3 of them that are hand woven, they'll last forever. So that's one of the gaps that I identified. But then I also have gym wear. That's a whole other section, and underwear and that kind of stuff. I'm not going to start making that stuff right now. Casual, everyday, and then evening and dressy. And that's kind of taken care of. So it's more just my casual, everyday, what am I going to wear? So some holes that I've identified is definitely some of my cardigans are quite badly stained. They're really frayed. A couple of them are a bit moth-eaten. They're hand knit. I probably knit them 10 years ago, which is really actually too bad because they haven't fared as well as I thought that they would. So I'm going to remove some of that stuff, and I donated a few, and I'll slowly replace them over time. I'm finding that I wear cardigans like this one in behind me quite often. So I showed it on the podcast on Saturday morning, the Clun Forest Ochre Yellow cardigan. That's going to be a pretty substantial, warm, round neck cardigan. I'll knit till I run out of yarn. I'll do the sleeves, knit the sleeves so that they fit really nicely, and then I'll knit the body until I run out of yarn. So if it's a little bit longer in the body, it'll give me just a slightly different shape. And then some of my other cardigans that are just getting a bit old, there's a blue one that's a long one that I wear all the time. It's really badly stained. I actually didn't realize it was in such bad shape. I've had it for about, I don't know, 8 or 9 years. Anyways, I'll replace it. So I need to plan that spin, figure that out. I don't have any cropped cardigans. So like to go with that skirt that I just showed, the coral one, I don't have anything to go with that that's a sweater. So now I'm super thankful that I have the shifty pullover that I'm spinning for. I talked about that on the podcast as well. And I actually have some great layering pieces that I had previously overlooked that I've not really worn very much, but I don't have any other than pullover type aprons. I sort of need some layering aprons that are for like every day when I'm just around here, I'm live streaming with you guys, I'm doing some weaving, I'm out in the garden, I'm in the kitchen, that will just protect my clothes to keep my clothes nice long term. And that's something that a lot of people who build these handmade wardrobes do invest some time and energy in, is making some Japanese style aprons. For those who don't know what Japanese style aprons look like, they look like this. I'll just pull up a photo of it. The reason why people really like them is they really have a lovely look to them. They look a little bit dressier because they kind of look like tunic dresses from the front, and you can put a really lovely cardigan over top, and then they really look, well, quite professional, to be honest, but they're functional. So this is a photo of one. I'm just going to increase my brightness because my phone's not quite bright enough to show you guys. This would be like a Japanese style apron. So you see how they crisscross at the back. And the nice thing is depending on the pattern, there's a really great one from Maven Patterns. With hers, you could actually modify it a little bit so that you could, so that it looks a little bit more tailored and it looks a little bit more like a dress. And you could actually wear that as a dress. So pretty. So I would like to weave some fabric for that. That is one of my long-term goals, because I think something like that would really, in a very neutral color, I'm thinking actually probably blue, you could put that over anything. Like I could put it over what I'm wearing today with a cardigan in the fall, and all of a sudden you have a layered outfit that's super functional. So I'm going to probably stick with the same colors for my 12 months. And over time, if I get sort of sick of some of that colors, I think what I'll do is sort of like this cardigan in behind me, I'll introduce some accent colors so that I'll have like one piece that's like that color, for example, but it goes with all of my blue stuff. It goes with all of my green stuff. It goes with all of my yellow stuff, because it's a color that coordinates and can be introduced and will still work, if that makes sense. So those are some of the thoughts that I'm sort of thinking about. Some of the smaller goals that I have for over the next sort of year is to get the cropped cardigan / pullover. I'm not sure if I'm going to make my shifty. I've been talking about it on the podcast, like doing it as a cardigan and cardiganizing it. But I might actually do it as a pullover. I'm really not sure what to do. I think I would wear a cardigan more. And I have 2 hand knit, one is hand spun pullovers that I already have that fit me really well. And I already don't wear them very often because it just doesn't get cold enough here. So I might do it as a cardigan. But that's definitely on my short list of sort of focusing on that and getting that done. And then weaving for a Japanese apron is sort of my next longer term goal and project. And then in the short term, what I'd really like to do is weave up some fabric to make this pattern behind me. So this pattern behind me is the Scout tee. I don't know if you guys have seen this pattern. It's a pattern by, I think it's So Liberated. Or Grain Line. Sorry, it's a Grain Line pattern. It's super cute. It's been made, it's a woven. This is Fancy Tiger Crafts. This is her version. Really like it. Super simple. On this one, I actually split the hems. So I've hemmed it so that there's a split in the side. And I just wanted to see what that would look like more than anything. So this one is a split hem, and then I can tuck it in at the front. And I'm going to finish this one off. Hopefully I'll get a chance to work on that this morning, actually. And then I'm going to weave some fabric for it. So I need to weave about 26 inches wide with about an inch drawn, so that the finished fabric is about 24 to 25 inches wide. That's the pattern pieces are about 22 inches. So that would give me a little bit on each side. I don't need to weave to a full 45 inch wide width. And I'm not going to try to do yardage for the bias neckline. I'll do that in some scrap fabric so that I don't have to weave a bunch of yardage and then throw out all that fabric that I've woven. So it'll only be the front and back pieces and the sleeves that I have to weave for. And then from there, which will end up being about 1.5 yards when I did all the math, which is perfect. I'll put on a 3-yard warp and then just go from there. Give me a bit of leeway for spacing out the pattern pieces. And then from there, I'll make one of these and sort of see what it looks like as a woven piece, how I like it, how it wears, how it washes, and then we'll go from there. Because I think what I'll do is I'll weave it to start with 2/8 cotton, just so that it's not too fine. I'll probably weave it at about 18 ends per inch, sort of like tea towels, but I'm going to do some sampling and I'll take it down to 18 ends per inch. So weave it a bit more open and just see what I think of the fabric. I think probably what I need to do is go with 18 ends per inch though, because I want a relatively stable fabric. I don't want it to be too open. So as I develop that idea and as I go from there, I'll discuss that with you. So that's my first hand woven, hand sewn piece of clothing that'll come into my wardrobe, if that makes sense. So those are sort of my 3 long-term, short-term projects, if that makes sense. So we'll talk about on the podcast how that's on the wool stream. We'll talk about how those projects are unfolding, how the planning is going, how the sampling goes, what the fabrics are like, how I find sewing with my hand woven fabric, because that's a whole other ballgame. I'll talk about a little bit more in depth around how my decision making around the shifty pullover / cardigan, what that looks like in terms of making a decision between doing a pullover versus a cardigan. And I'm probably going to steek it. So I'll knit it as a pullover and then I'll steek it if I want to make it into a cardigan. So steeking is where you cut. And so my dad's memorial service is not this coming Friday, it's next Friday. And then we've got company here all that weekend for the service. And obviously my brother's going to be in town and their kids, and there'll be lots and lots of people around. But then after that, life kind of hopefully will calm down a little bit. And there's a couple of sessions at a local sewing shop for sergers. And my serger has been sitting in the corner all this time. My mom got it all fixed up for me, and she has basically given it to me because she said she's not really going to be using it. And I was thinking really seriously about taking the workshop. It's 2 3-hour sessions to really get you up and running with your serger. And I've used a serger a ton, but I don't know some of the nuances, like some of the little fiddly things about sergers that would just really get me going and on my way with it. So there's a session in September, but I'm not going to take that one. It's too soon. But there's one in October and there's another one in November, and it's just 2 3-hour sessions. So I'll keep you posted. I think I might take the one in November because it would get my confidence up a bit more with my serger, and I wouldn't feel so... It's not that I don't know how to use a serger. I'm quite comfortable using it. It's just all the the little things that you don't learn when you don't have somebody sitting there with you teaching you. So I thought 2-3 hour sessions would really get my confidence up and really get me using it. And it's like 10 to 1, 2 Tuesdays or something. So I could totally do that. All right. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for joining us on our first episode of the Wool Stream. I'm really excited to be able to offer this content and to be able to be here and to be able to do this. And over the next few months, we'll delve into more detail around what some of these projects are going to look like. Today was just sort of an overview of what you can expect and sort of the format and how things are going to roll out from here. Like I said, these will be numbered episodes so that you can go back and watch them in order if you're pledging at a later time and you're going back and watching archived episodes. It's not like this is a magazine. Episodes. And I will keep these all updated in the index for everybody as well so that you can see over time as things roll out, and you want to go back and see specific things. I'll try and keep the titles as pertinent to what's being talked about as possible. So they'll be a bit dry, but at least if you're looking for something specific, you can click on that episode and find whatever it is that you're looking for. So I'm hoping that next time, in 2 weeks from now, I'm hoping that I'll be able to talk a little bit more about the Scout tee and finishing that off and doing the bias neckline, which I've done in the past, but some of you probably haven't seen that before. So we'll talk about that, and we'll talk about wearable muslins and what that is, and we'll go from there in terms of where I'm at with some of my other stuff. So until next time, happy spinning and knitting and weaving and all the things. And please let me know if you want to have a discussion thread in Ravelry for the Wool Stream, or if you want to have it in the Slack channel. If you could comment on the Patreon post, that would be really helpful. And you guys can pop in on that post and let us know what you're thinking in terms of building your own capsule wardrobe, what that's maybe going to look like, and some of your goals for the next 6 months to a year in terms of some of the things that you're thinking about. Maybe your goal is just to clean out your closet and dresser and stuff and see what you've got, and then to go from there. That's perfect. And your reasons for wanting to be more intentional about your wardrobe. What is it about your clothing and what you're wearing that you want to do more intentionally? Like, what is it that you're hoping for? Because it'll be different for everybody. So, and I'd love to hear the different reasons. It's really helpful. So Liberated, which is, I think it's Meg or Megan, Meg, I think she goes by. She's actually she's working on it right now, and she's just talked about it on her Instagram. She's at So Liberated, so SEW, so like to sew. She is releasing an ebook about building a capsule wardrobe, and she's coming at it from the viewpoint of self-care, which I'm actually really excited to look at and to sort of, to look at and reflect upon, because it's a new angle. And she talks a lot about how, or in her Instagram post anyways, I don't know if she actually will, but in her Instagram post, she says that she's going to be talking about building a capsule wardrobe and how to go about doing that. So I'm looking forward to looking at that when it's released. All right. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here and for tuning in. I really appreciate it. And until next time, have a wonderful week, and we'll chat to you next week on our regular scheduled Wool and Spinning podcast episode. So I'll see you guys then. Bye.